Welcome to Recalculating Small Business. Like its award-winning book, Recalculating is dedicated to small business in America. Your hosts are Don Mazzella and Dan Perkins. Don Mazzella is the editor-in-chief of the Small Business Digest. Dan Perkins is a registered investment advisor with 43 years' experience in managing money.
Dan Perkins here, your co-host, along with Don Mazzella of Recalculating for Small Business. Our radio program is dedicated to you, helping the small business owners increase their profits. We draw our name from Recalculating, voted the best small business book of 2017 by the Independent Press. In this book, it features ways to grow your small business. Now, here's Don Mazzella.
I'm Don Mazzella. The program is Recalculating. My co-host, Dan Perkins, is on assignment, but we have with us today Janis Powers. She's here to talk about some issues involving healthcare, which we haven't covered in a while. Janis, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Janis, we start, as always, with a little bit of your background, a little bit about your new book and the website.
Great. So I have worked in the healthcare industry since 1995. I started with Deloitte, and I have my entire career been a strategy and operations consultant working for the hospital side, which we call the provider side, as opposed to the payers, which are the insurers. So I've had an objective view of the healthcare system, which has been terrific. And over the years, I have analyzed every department in a hospital. I've done mergers. I've worked in the outpatient environment. And I focus really on where the money goes and making sure that the money that's spent by our clients is going to provide the best care and the best access to care for patients. So that's sort of, what gets me going. And over the years, the industry has just stagnated. It's been a real challenge because we can provide the best medical care in the world, but our system is just sort of falling in on itself. I'd say over the last 6 years or so, I started publishing a lot of articles and writing. And this October, I published a book called Healthcare, Meet the American Dream. And this is the culmination of a lot of ideas about how I think the healthcare system should work, like if we were to start totally from scratch. And my view, which we can talk about a little more, is that I think health insurance is going to be obsolete, and that we know so much about genetics and predictive analytics that we should know a lot more about what we're going to develop, so there's less to quote-unquote insure, since we know what's going to happen. And the more we can pay providers directly for care, I think the more empowered we become and the more motivated we become to live healthier lives. So I invite your listeners to contact me, read my book for sure, but you can learn about me on my website, janispowers.com, and that's Janis like Joplin, Janis, P as in Peter, Owers. There's links to the book. There's a lot of great videos, and I'm hoping to engage with people to discuss these ideas because we really need to make some structural change to healthcare in America.
Janis, the name of your book?
Healthcare, Meet the American Dream.
Okay. And again, your website?
It's just janispowers.com, Janis, P as in Peter, Owers.com.
Okay. Now, you're saying, and we can talk about it. Unfortunately, I know just enough to be dangerous, but I'll try to ask some of the questions our listeners would ask. And I guess the first one, are you advocating a single-payer system for America?
No. In fact, Chapter 6 of my book is an entire chapter devoted to why I think that will not work here in America. And by the way, the thing about healthcare that's interesting is it impacts everybody, but everyone's knowledge level is different, and we all have a story. And the first half of my book is sort of a level-setting review of the healthcare system, so it might be an interesting read for folks. I'll tell you why I'm not for a single-payer system. It gets back to why the book is called Healthcare, Meet the American Dream. When you look at the outcomes in America and how much we spend per capita, we spend, in 2016, it was about $10,400 a person was spent on healthcare. We spent $3.3 trillion. I think in 2017 it was $3.5 trillion. That approximates the gross domestic product of Germany, so it's huge. We're often compared to other European countries that have a single-payer system, and we think they spend so much less, which they do, and their outcomes are better, so we should do that. There are a lot of arguments against that, and a lot of times we'll look at Canada, which has a purely single-payer system where they don't have backup insurance like a lot of the European countries do. And we'll talk about long wait times and care rationing. My view on it is that America is much too big and much too diverse to have a one-size-fits-all plan. When you look at how large America is, we are, like Germany is the largest country by population in Europe, and it's a quarter of the size of America. When you think about a lot of these, the majority of the countries in Europe, it's changing now, but they're very homogenous. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens over time. We are probably the most diverse nation in the world. And when you think about how the term is like hyper-local healthcare is, I mean, that's why we have a hospital in every big community. The healthcare needs of the diverse population we have can't be handled by one system. And an example I often give is just the racial diversity we have in the country. When you look at the opioid crisis, it strikes the white community much higher than it does other races. When you look at diabetes, it impacts the African American community at a much higher rate. And when you look at the leading cause of death in America, it's cardiovascular disease, but for Hispanics, it's cancer. So when you're trying to, pinpoint and use your resources effectively, which is what I've been doing my whole career, it's almost impossible to get that sensitivity when you have that much variety. Then when you layer in religion, the geographies that we have, what we eat, the lifestyles around the U.S., it just won't work. And so when I was thinking about writing this book, I thought that our healthcare system should have an approach that was distinctly American. And that's why I named it, or I use these ideas of the American dream to formulate this plan. And it's this idea that each of us has our own vision of how we want the future to be. We have our own American dream. We have a longitudinal view of it. We have goals that we want to achieve. We're accountable, and I would like our healthcare system to be much more like that. That's the long answer to, no, I don't think we're going to have a single-payer system, although a lot of people like it until they actually learn more about it.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question. What do you mean by longitudinal?
I mean that right now, we all have to sign up for insurance. Like right now, it's open enrollment. I, like probably a lot of your listeners, have to get my insurance on the open exchange because I'm self-employed. There is an annual cutoff, and our deductibles, run out every year. Everything is on this annualized basis. Well, we don't live like that. If cancer doesn't care that December 31st is here, the fact that we will invest in our health care and then the clock starts all over again just because of the time on the calendar makes no sense at all. And when we're talking about spending our money wisely, I often use this example about knee replacements, and these are becoming much more common in America. There are about 700,000 knee replacements that are done every year in America. And when you get that implant, it can be cheap or it can be expensive. And if it's expensive, typically the quality is going to be better. And if the quality is better, that means your mobility is better, it will last longer, you'll be able to recover quicker, you'll be able to contribute to society, you'll live a healthier, happier life. But in reality, people have short-term objectives. And if they're on a budget, they think, well, I'm just going to put this cheaper implant in. But over the long term, that does not optimize our health. And it's those sorts of decisions that I think we need to be making on a long-term horizon, because ultimately it's actually a better way to spend our money, and it makes us healthier.
Well, what comes to mind is that expression, long-term, we're all dead. But
yeah, it depends on how you want to die, though. I'll say that.
Okay, but let's back up a little bit. And we always have this figure. We spend $10,000 on average for every American. Yet, if I recall, and depending on which statistic you use, around 90% of our resources are used on less than 7% of our population. As we get older, we use more of the resources to keep ourselves alive. So when yes, we even it out over large segments, but the actual truth is, we spend most of our resources on older people, and we don't seem to be tilting the healthcare towards them, but rather smoothing out the curve.
Yeah, you bring up two distinct points, and I think they're both really important. One of them is the fact that the amount of money we spend skews on a small amount of people. So it's 90-10. Some statistics say 80% is spent on a third of the population, but there is a definite consolidation. And because our population is as unhealthy as it is, we're now at the point where 70% of Americans are overweight or obese, which is stunning. We spend a lot of money on the chronically ill. So, and those are not necessarily folks who are older. So we're already spending money on a lot of folks who shouldn't be as ill as they are. They have a lot of controllable reasons why they are the way they are: smoking, not exercising, diet. All these things are sort of the cornerstone of good health. And we as Americans on average do not follow the clinical protocols for exercise, sleeping, diet, any of that sort of stuff. So generally speaking, we have a lot of chronically ill people. We need to address that because that's problematic. Your second point is that we do spend a lot of money on folks as they get older. And this is definitely a problem with the Medicare system. And again, gets back to, why I would like to not have a single payer system. This is an interesting statistic. So in America, the life expectancy, at least in 2016, I go back, this is World Health Organization data, is it's about 78.5 years. So, and that's not good compared to other countries. Japan is around 83, 84 years, and they've got the longest life expectancy. And interestingly, they're one of the most homogenous nations in the world. 98% of the people in Japan are Japanese. So it's a huge population, but they're all very similar. So it makes managing that population from a health perspective a little easier than managing ours. But there's life expectancy, and then there's another statistic out there called healthy life expectancy, and that's 10 years sooner, 0.5. So you can qualify for Medicare at 65. 3.5 years later, you're sort of identified as living, on average, an unhealthy life. So in the Medicare program, people are obviously coming in unhealthy, but then the program itself is paying for care for people who are unhealthy and then sort of sustaining that. And there have been many studies about overspending for folks who are older and doing a lot of tests and things that don't improve health outcomes. And the question I often ask people is, if you had to pay for your own care, would you have 3 rounds of chemotherapy when, you had dementia? And that's the kind of stuff that is going on right now that is just bleeding the American economy. And, we as citizens need to be much more proactive in the system, work with physicians, and honestly, work with each other and the elderly members of our families to help them come to terms with how they want to die. Because, just because a doctor recommends something doesn't mean we have to do it. And, we need to get more comfort around when sort of enough is enough.
We are talking with Janis Powers. She has a fascinating book. Janis, the name of the book and how people can find it and read it?
Thank you. It's called Healthcare Meet the American Dream. The book is an Amazon bestseller, so you can find it on Amazon, Barnes Noble, anywhere you can find ebooks. And you can learn more about me at janispowers.com, JANISP as in Peter, OWERS.com.
Well, we're on to a subject that consumes us all. I'm listening to you and knowing that, as my doctor points out to me, much of my problems in my senior years stem from my activities as a young man, jumping out of airplanes, etc. But if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying we should start by trying to make the population healthier, and then in effect we'll make it less onerous as they move on in life. Am I hearing that correctly?
You've stated it perfectly. Yes, the American population needs to get revived. And it's interesting, when I was writing my book, Healthcare Meet the American Dream, I came across a book by Walt Whitman, believe it or not, and it's called Manly Health and Training. And it's a rediscovered set of a series of essays that Whitman wrote about being healthy. And this was published around, Civil War era, where there was no health care. I mean, there weren't even antibiotics back then. So the book was all about how it was almost your civic responsibility to be healthy because you didn't have any options. And what's funny is to look at it now, because there are all these diagrams in there that look like yoga poses. He talks about the importance of wearing comfortable shoes and going outside, and how important exercise is for your brain to help you think. He espouses elements of the paleo diet, so, not eating a lot of fats and sort of eschewing the carbs. There are some weird parts about it because it is, a much older text, but so much of it resonates today. And we have lost this notion that it's our responsibility to be healthy. And we don't have, again, this longitudinal view of, when I behave like this today, it's going to affect me tomorrow. And one of the sort of unfortunate byproducts of the Affordable Care Act, and this, may affect the members of your audience here, is this idea that insurers can't discriminate based on pre-existing conditions. And this has enabled millions of people to get health care coverage who've been denied in the past, but it has also tangentially led to this lack of accountability, right? Because it doesn't matter what kind of health condition I'm in, I'm just going to be covered. And I think that that's a problem for sure, because we all need to be better motivated to be healthy. It's sort of baffling to think that we wouldn't want to be healthy because it's our lives. But, we culturally have shifted into this environment where we work hard, working long hours is a badge of honor, and the food we eat, the access we have to food, we don't have time to cook. We're sitting watching Netflix, we're on our phones, we're not outside, we want quick fixes, we, rely on drugs instead of trying to improve ourselves before we get on them. It is a whole, sort of cauldron of stuff that we collectively need to do a better job of managing so that, as a population, we're healthier.
I don't know if you're familiar with the famous line, Mickey Mantle. He said if he had known he was going to live this long, he would have taken better care of his body.
He's an anomaly. So is Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones.
Well, when Mickey, he drank, drank to excess, and really destroyed his body. But you're bringing up some interesting points. The Young Men's Christian Association came out of the idea that building a better body built a better man, and then eventually young women better women. And unfortunately, we've lost that And it's interesting you said that about Obamacare. It's a point that was brought up during the debate, but now is seldom mentioned. Since we're a program aimed mainly at small businesses, what in your book, if anything, have you addressed in terms of how all of this is affecting small business?
I have thought about it, and I think small business owners are, we talk about them being the backbone of the American economy because they employ local people. It sort of captures what it means to be an American. So, we need to do whatever we can to support this approach to business. People may or may not be aware that health insurance started in the rationale behind having employers provide health insurance started with the Stabilization Act in 1942. So what happened was men were off at war, and it was really tight to get the labor market was really tight, and the government was concerned that wages were going to skyrocket. So they created this, passed this law that said, you can't jack up rates. So employers were like, well, what are we going to do now? So they started offering health insurance. So that's where this all started. And then in 1954, the Revenue Act was, which sounds like a very generic piece of legislation, but this was the legislation that allowed employers to offer subsidies to their employees tax-free. I am actually not for that. I think that having employers offer health insurance is onerous to employers. It's particularly onerous to small employers. I think what winds up happening is we do get these bloated health insurance plans, and this has been talked about with the ACA. There was supposed to be what was called a Cadillac tax that never got implemented on some larger employers' very generous health insurance plans. So that's sort of a fact that, all this stuff starts to get covered, and I don't think it's actually all that fair. If you think about the fact that somebody may be single and get insurance through their employer, and that benefit isn't taxed, so it's a benefit they're getting. Say it's $5,000 a year in benefits, and then you have someone who's married with 6 kids, and that man or woman is getting a much larger benefit because the company is paying for their entire family's insurance. They're making more money, in real money. They're making more, and those two individuals may be exactly the same. And that, I don't think that that's fair. So what I would prefer to happen, which would simplify a lot, would be that employers just offer their employees a cash subsidy that is taxed, because according to some estimates, by not taxing the employer-sponsored subsidy, we lose about $260 billion a year, which was something they considered doing when they passed the big tax laws in 2017, but that didn't go into it. So I think it should be taxed, and I think that simplifies things for employers. And I also think that a lot of individuals work part-time jobs. When you look at the Medicaid population, a lot of folks on Medicaid can't get health insurance from their employers because they're only working part-time. And so then they have to default into this public health program that we all pay for. But if employers provided employees, especially part-time employees, a prorated subsidy, and you work 2 or 3 part-time jobs, then you could ostensibly cobble together those subsidies and buy your own health insurance. Then you're off Medicaid. So there's a lot of, I think, transformational things that we have to start thinking about that make the system easier. Not to mention, half of Americans right now get their insurance through their employers. So if we were to implement this idea and just have this direct payment to employees to go buy their insurance on the open market, then it would radically transform this, this sort of view that the insurance market right now, the open insurance market, is so risky because there are all these sick people in it. If you push in, half of Americans in the market, it is, wildly diversified, and theoretically rates should come down. So that's my wish. That's one of my wishes.
We're talking with Janis Powers. Your book again, Janis?
It's called Healthcare, Meet the American Dream. It's an Amazon bestseller. You can find it on Amazon and other online outlets. And you can learn more about me at janispowers.com, Janis, Janis, P as in Peter, OWERS.com.
I guess one more question before we let you go, Janis. There's a whole industry. It used to be a cottage industry. Now it's a vast industry of people selling wellness programs to corporations and individuals. Mm-hmm. Where do you stand on those issues?
I think that I'd like to say that I'm supportive of anything that tries to make people well and focuses on wellness. So out of the gate, I'm all for preventive care and all that sort of stuff. I think that being said, I think the majority of these employer-based wellness programs are overrated. I think what they do is reward the people who are going to be healthy anyway. So when you say, hey, if you take a physical with us and, if your vitals and your blood pressure's at this level and whatever, we'll give you a cut rate on your insurance. Well, what's really happening there is that the other people are just being charged more. It's not like the people who are healthier are being charged less. I mean, it's just the way that, that is pitched to employees. I don't think they're motivated, because if you're an employer, you can't say, well, I'm going to give this health care to this person, I'm going to give this to the other. You sort of have to have a general plan for everyone. And, we're hearing a lot now, interestingly, that employers should be more responsible for their employees' wellness because it's in their best interest, because if, their employees are well, absenteeism rates go down, healthier employees are more productive, they're happier, all that's true. But, there's also the fact that if I don't do my job, I should be released. I should be motivated to do my job, this is my opinion, the best that I possibly can. And yes, I think employers have a responsibility to create a community of wellness for their employees. I mean, that's just good for everybody. But financially, creating these programs to try and measure things about employees and offer things that a lot of employees can get on their own. I mean, we all have a ton of apps. If we really wanted to, manage our fitness better, we can get an app. I don't need my employer to do it. So I really struggle with it. And I know a lot of people that work in this industry, and there are obviously solutions that work better than others. But I think that over time, I think out of the gate, what you wind up seeing is that there's low-hanging fruit. There's people who are already going to be healthy, and, those are viewed as wins by these organizations. It's getting to that other group of people who aren't motivated, and trying to motivate them is a real challenge.
Janis, we could go on, but unfortunately, we've run out of time. We've been talking with Janis Powers. She has a new book, Healthcare and the American Dream. Did I get it right?
Healthcare, Meet the American Dream, but sounds good to me. Okay. This has been great.
But your website again, Janis?
It's janispowers.com, and you can find my book, Healthcare, Meet the American Dream, on Amazon and all internet ebook outlets.
Well, a link to her website will be on recalculating.biz tonight, where you can hear this and every other program, past and future. Janis, thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure. Have a healthy 2019.
Dan Perkins here from recalculating.biz with your featured book. I want to tell you about a recent interview I had with Bob Bethel, a turnaround specialist with lots of success in small business. Bob's new book is Strengthen Your Business, Fail-Proof Strategies for Small Business. He tells us of his life successes and failures that have made him and his clients so successful. Over the years, Bob has brought 77 companies back from the brink and changed them into thriving, profitable businesses. His energy is amazing, and at 74, he proves that you can still have a great deal to give others if you just try. His suggestions are easy to understand and very helpful. One insight struck me was that most companies do not have a plan. The old Chinese proverb says, if you don't know where you're going, then any road will take you there, is true today. Bob Bethel author's book, Strengthen Your Business, can be found at Amazon.com or can be ordered at your local bookstore. This has been Dan Perkins with your Recalculating.biz featured book.
Want to know more about health savings accounts for your company or yourself? Go to 2hsa.com and get a free employer's primer. Health savings accounts are a cost-effective way of offering health care benefits to your employees and yourself. HSAs build retirement funds for your employees, improve morale, and reduce your health care benefit cost. For a free employer guide to HSAs, go to 2hsa.com. That's 2hsa.com.
I'm Don Mazzella. The program is Recalculating. My co-host, Dan Perkins, is on assignment, but all the way from Germany is Ulrich Kellerer. He's got what I consider a fascinating topic and book. It's called
One Moment Can Change Your Life.
Something I so heartily agree upon. Ulrich, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Ulrich, first tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your company, about your book, and where people can get it.
So, I was working in the fashion industry more than 38 years, and I took care that people really look good on the outside. Since more than 4.5 years, I take care that people feel good on the inside. My book is One Moment Can Change Your Life, where I say everybody has a defining moment, positive or negative. You can find the love of your life on a train station. You can win a lottery. You have a near-death experience or whatever it is. Be aware every moment is precious.
Well, that's a good thought. But what's the name of your book?
The name of the book is One Moment Can Change Your Life.
Okay. And how did you come to write this book?
I came across to write this book when my mother had an accident in her apartment. She fell, had an operation, emergency, and the operation failed and she was paralyzed afterwards. And I had to change my life in one moment. So I gave up my job. I had to take care of her, and she came in a nursing home, and I became a volunteer. First of all, I worked at all events, and then I invented a group where I was reading every Monday 1 hour, and I'm still reading after 4.5 years, once a week. And I say, these are the generation they brought us to life, and we have to give back. So, I mean, I did it because it was selfish at the beginning, because I want a single room for my mother, which is difficult to get. She finally got it, but even after my mother died, I continued, and I said everybody can and should do something to give back in the world, and 1 hour a week is possible for everybody.
Well, I won't argue with that, but you talk about face-to-face in business and how it's declining, which is why I asked you on the program, because I couldn't agree with you more. Well, how did you come up with that, and why do you think that's happening?
Yeah, because, face-to-face in business, I had my employees, they sit on the table in front of their computer and they write you an email and you're just 2 meters away from them. And I said to them, hey, look at my face. I'm in the house. We can talk. And he sent me an email and said, but the biggest skill of humankind is the skill of communication. And if we just send us an email, an MS, an SMS, a WhatsApp, whatever, and we lose this ability to talk to each other, then we're not humans anymore. Then we're really like machine. Oh, I just have to check my emails. I just have to check this. We go for dinner together, for people to eat something, and everybody's checking. Oh, just check my emails. I mean, why don't we talk again to each other face to face? And then there is a big difference. If I talk to you face to face, I also can see a little bit in which mood you are. Maybe today you're not okay, maybe you have some problems. I see it in your face. If I send you only an email and say, hey, what's going on, blah, 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 I'm good, I'm fine, this is not the way we should do it. We should come back and say, if I have the opportunity to talk to you face to face, let's do it, as it was some years ago.
Well, Ulrich, and we're talking about Ulrich Kellerer. I sit here and listen to that, to listen to what you say, and I couldn't agree with you more. But it seems that people feel safer not having that personal contact. What do you say to that?
No. This is the same. I'm very often asked to fight depression with these elderly people in the nursing home. Could you do this the same with the kids? I said, for the kids, one thing is what I'm talking. Another thing is how I'm acting. Kids are watching how you're acting. I mean, they watch you because you're like a role model. You're the father, you're the mother. So they watch in their early years how you do this, how you say this, how you act. And I mean, we can, again, if we are face to face, we have an impression what the other is really feeling. What's the other one? How you see him, you see her, how she's acting. Oh, she's not in a good mood. You can say, hey, you look great today. Oh, what a nice scarf you're wearing. So it's much more personal. If you just send emails, if you just act like a machine and say, we have met the last time, you just send it via Skype or a computer, it's not the same thing. I mean, we don't always have the opportunity to meet each other and see in person, but I highly recommend, if they have the chance to meet in person, to go for a coffee together, do it. Let's chat face to face.
I agree. Many years ago, there was a famous United Airlines commercial in which a guy said, we've lost touch with our customers. Let's go out and talk to them. Do you subscribe to that as an important facet of business?
Yeah, I mean, that in our days, everything is the speed, faster, and I need it now, I need it tomorrow. And I mean, we are still humankind, and I always recommend the people and say, let's be what we are meant to be, let's be human, and let's slow down sometimes and just take the time to talk to each other and even talk to each other face to face, because if you're just struggling, if you're just running, if you're just, I'm busy, you're busy, everybody's busy, I have to do this, or we have appointments, I have to do this, I have just to check. So, I mean, you see how much stress we all create to each other by telling the others, hey, I even have no time to talk to you. I even have no time because I'm just busy for the next thing. So if we slow down and say, okay, now I'm talking only to you. Of course, you have a lot of listeners, and maybe, and I hope they all listen, but maybe we all can really take care for others and say, hey, this day I just had a talk with these people, I still remember what I said, and I take care for tomorrow's business, and so on. I feel we all will be what we really can do. We are responsible for our life. We have a plan, and we slow a little bit down and say, I still remember what I said yesterday.
I'm sitting here just, you're really saying a lot. You came to write the book, and you say your background is in dressing people. What does your company do now?
My company is doing very well. The company is internationally, so they still sell clothes, and I was the franchise broker for them recently in the last years. But I stopped working for them in January this year because I was on my mission, and I said, if the mission is bigger than you, I said, I want to go out being author and speaker, and so I wrote this book, One Moment Can Change Your Life, and I just want to people be aware of their own life and say, hey, you can change everything tomorrow, but you really have to live your own life and don't live like my friends do. If I'm retired, I will do this. If I'm retired, I will do this. So I said, don't bring all your future dreams in the future. Do something now. Do it today and start something small, and it will grow.
Okay, now let's talk about your book. Let's talk a little bit more about it. And, what are some of the things you say in your book that people should do to improve this face-to-face?
I say in my book that really we should all be aware of the moment. It's the first thing. And I mean, it's not enough that you be aware of the moment. You see the lady who is struggling and she's taking her groceries home. Then you have to take action. If you see somebody needs a chair, give her the chair. If you see somebody needs help, help him. If you see in traffic, this guy is not okay, help him. So do so small things, be aware of the moment, and then your life is different. And I mean, as I always said, if you live in the moment and you're aware, then you really can create a future which is different. And if you talk to people, what I always say to my employees, I mean, you have a meeting. Be aware what you say. Be aware what's happening, and not always waiting what the others can do for you. What can you do for others? Contribution to your planet and giving back, being a part of something, even if it's small. And then people say, we cannot save the world. I say, hey, you don't need to save the world, but you can do something, a small thing in your neighborhood, and it starts by facing each other face to face. I mean, if I go outside to my office in the morning and I meet my neighbor, I can say, hey, good morning, have a great week, have a great day, I hope everything is okay. Or I can just stumble and go to my car and say, I didn't even recognize him. I mean, this is, if you meet people and if you see people, it's different if you talk to them, if you smile to them, if you have a small sentence and say, hey, I wish you something, this is different. And we are just rushing and we are just running and we are all busy, and this is not okay. I mean, we can start so small with just having a smile on your face and say, good morning, you look great today, I wish you a good one.
We're talking about Ulrich Kellerer. Ulrich, but I'm going to ask you this. I always get back to the point that most of us, when we come up against somebody that we want to talk to, et cetera, get tongue-tied. How do you help them overcome that moment of indecision, a moment of being frightened?
Yeah, I mean, we're all struggling. We're all always afraid. What's going on? We're always taking care with thoughts of our future. We say, oh, what can I do? What can I do? I mean, we have something which I call an inner voice. We have something like intuition. You feel it. I mean, this is like an all-day situation. You go in a restaurant and you feel, oh, here the energy is not good enough. You go somewhere and you feel, in the retail shop, I don't feel good enough. It's your life. Life is, first of all, a choice of all. You can choose, and you can say, if I don't like the situation where I'm in, if I don't like people where I'm around, you can change it. You can say, sorry, I have to leave. Sorry, I have to do something else. So, I mean, we should be aware what we are doing, what we are feeling, and we should much more trust our inner guts, and we should come back to all these senses we have. I mean, we have this minimum 5 senses. Some of us have even 6 senses, and I feel if we trust much more to our inner voice, we will feel much more comfortable, and we will much more have this confidence in our life and say, yeah, my life is good, even if it's snowing or cold outside, even today it's raining like hell, whatever it is. I'm still healthy, I'm still here, and maybe there is even a purpose in life, and maybe I can even follow my purpose.
Well, I always remember when I was a very young man working as a copy boy at NBC News, I walked into our office at the UN, and there was Adlai Stevenson, who had twice run for president, sitting there, and and I didn't know what to say. And for 5 minutes, I just stood there. When you get in the presence of people like that, do you have any secrets that you tell people to think about to overcome that shyness?
Yeah. If you just, let's say you come in a room or you come in a meeting, or maybe you're very new in a situation and there are people around you, they watch you. First of all, you always think more than it is. You think, oh, they think I'm shy, they think I'm not wearing the right clothes, they think I'm this, they think I'm that. But there's always the thing like human can do. You can just look in one face, which is a little bit familiar to you, and then you smile a little bit, and then you do something with your eyes, you look around, and then you smile again, and you just take a little bit eye contact in the beginning, and then you just don't say anything, and then you wait a little bit, somebody is speaking, and then you agree with the situation, you agree with what is saying, and you don't have always to say yes to everything, but you just say, hey, I'm here, I'm a human person, please respect me, I want to say this. And then if people ask you, what's your opinion, then you really can start and say, thank you that you have me here, and my opinion is I like this environment, I like the situation, thank you for having me. So you just start small, and then you just feel, again, what I said before, your inner voice, your intuition says, oh, these people want something more from you. And then you can really freely speak and say something to the situation. But you can always overcome it because, tomorrow is a new day, and they're all human people, so we all had struggles in the beginning and say, oh, now I have to face this situation. It's my first radio interview. It's my first TV interview. Oh, I'm so nervous. What are you saying? What are your listeners expecting? Be as you are, and this is the best you can always do.
Now, that's a very good piece. I try to put that on in this show, which is just come on and be yourself. But a lot of people have great difficulty. To me, the greatest overcome that, I don't know if you're familiar with Charles MacArthur, who was the great writer, and Helen Hayes, who was a great actress at the time. The first time he saw her was across a room, and he picked up a bowl of peanuts, walked over and tossed them in her lap, and said, I wish they were emeralds. I've always it's a true story, and years later he did give her a bowl of emeralds. But how's that for breaking the ice? But I've talked to a lot of people, and myself included. There are times when you sit there and you say you want to say something, but you can't. You're just frozen there, and. But the point is, some people have argued that the internet has become our way of avoiding those issues and avoiding the fact that somebody might ignore you. What do you say to all of that, Ulrich?
I wrote a book which is called It's All About Fashion. There is no second chance for your first impression. And we all have this first impression. You cannot have not a first impression. I see you or I talk to you and I have an impression. I say, hey, this guy is like me, this guy is wearing this guy's doing like that. But in the end, first of all, we have just to overcome the situation and say, okay, I take the chance to talk to you now. First, maybe I have an impression, say, oh, he is a little bit quiet, or he is a type like me. But then, in this communication, I find out there is much more in it than I was thinking in the beginning. Because first, I have this impression. This can be right because all inside of my computer is telling me, oh, this is the guy like blah, blah, blah. But then, if I start a conversation, and even if I try to listen to you and say, yeah, you are saying this and you are saying that, then I really can have a conversation where I say, no, in this point, he's really right, or he is a guy like this. And I mean, we just have to overcome all our fears by saying, why do I talk to these people? Is he working in the same industry? Is he doing the same job like me? For me, I always say, no, it's better for me talking to people who are not in my industry, who are not in my business, because otherwise I don't learn something new. And this is why I'm always talking to new people and say, I can only learn from you because you have your environment, you're living there, you're doing that, and you telling me something, I'm telling you something. In the end, we feel, hey, this was okay, we have something in common, and we don't have to take it too heavy, and don't take it too seriously, what we always do, and say, my life is so hard, and tomorrow I still have to do this. Let's be a little bit more open to the world, and let's have in mind to give something back.
Well, that is really good advice. We're talking to Ulrich Kellerer, his new book, Ulrich, the name of your book and how people can get it?
My book is called One Moment Can Change Your Life. And you get everything under my website, which is ulrich-kellerer.com.
Can you spell it out, Ulrich, for our audience?
Yeah, this is ULRICH-KELLERER.com, or you get my book even on Amazon.
From what I'm hearing today, it's a book that I'm going to go out and buy. Ulrich, in the few minutes we have left, from your experience, you've given us a lot of good advice. Do you have a checklist of things when you enter a room that you say to yourself that you'd pass on to someone else?
Yeah. I have a checklist for people. They enter the room and say, first of all, it makes a difference how you enter the room. I mean, how? Come in and be aware where you're going. Be aware which people are there. Hey, be motivated and be positive and say, hello, have a great day. And then just take action. If you can do something, maybe somebody needs a chair and you just say, hey, here's a chair for you. Can I do something? Just be more present. Be you. Be yourself. And take the opportunity and to take action. Say, this is my life. I'm not only joining in the meeting and I'm like depressed and not even tired and say, oh, another meeting. Be something, because people will remember you if you're really in a positive mood, and if they say, hey, this guy was very strong, you remember him, he was the guy with the glasses on. So do something to be different, not only trying to be different. Be different, do something, and interact with people, look them in the eyes and say, hey, say a little small compliment and say, you look great, how you doing, how did you come here, was it a long travel, whatever it is. Try to interact with people, try to do something, contribute to the world, and try to give back.
That's really good advice. If I'm hearing you right, Ulrich, you're saying contribute to the world and things will happen.
Yeah, I mean, I learned it from being volunteer in the nursing home. 1 hour a week changed my life. I said it before. These are the generation they brought us to life. They're not lying anymore. They're just only handicapped. Of course, they have something to hear better, and of course, 80% are in the wheelchairs, but they're not coming to their apartment anymore. So they are the real deal, and they look you in the eyes and they watch what you are doing. And we should do the same with our kids, and we should do the same with neighbors. We should do it in a business. Really take care for others and mean what you're saying. This is the most important thing. Don't talk about things. And so the quote from Mark Twain is my favorite one. Say always the truth so you don't have to remember what you said yesterday.
That's a good note to end on. We've been talking with Ulrich Kellerer. He has a new book. Ulrich, again, the book for our audience.
It's One Moment Can Change Your Life.
Well, I hope there's a moment or two in this show that changed someone's life. But a link to your website will be on recalculating.biz tonight, where you can hear this and every other past and future program. And you can also, by the way, tell us guests you'd like to hear. Ulrich, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an illuminating hour. We get a lot of information hours, but never an illuminating hour like this one. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, and have a good one. And I wish you a healthy and a very good new year 2019. Thank you.
Dan Perkins here with your Recalculating Small Business Tip of the Day. Did you know that a candle can be an energy saver for home and office? An old-fashioned candle can be a new-fashioned energy saver, and at the same time provide a warm glow to any home office. Adding a candle seems like a silly thing to do, but it can help check for drafts. You can use the candle to test if new windows are needed. Here's how. First, take a roll of blue painter's tape and tear off pieces and put them on your left arm. Pass the candle around the opening and mark the spots around each window and door where the candle flame flickers. When you have finished your test, step back and see if you have tape around all of the window or only one side. The more tape you have on the window, the more money you will save by replacing those windows and doors. Check out recalculating.biz for more useful small business suggestions. This has been Dan Perkins with your Small Business Tip of the Day.
Dan's tip of the day should resonate with every small business. Having a bright, clear physical plan always adds profits. One recent survey revealed 71% of walkers responded that they would enter a newly refurbished establishment even if they didn't have anything to buy or were in the market for buy. So how important is it with small business for physical establishments where customers come in to buy? It's very important. Sprucing up a small business makes sense. Saving cents may cost a small business dollars if the right quality paint is not used. According to Hotel Association figures, the average time between major spruce-ups for member hotels, dropped from 8 to 7 years in the past 12 months. Why? Because new establishments are very important. But don't think these statistics apply only to brick-and-mortar stores. The entry page for any business is that company's storefront. For those online leaders who think they are immune to the need for change to their storefronts, think again. While changing index pages initially loses visitors, new visitors are usually generated within 3 months. So today's message, in a physical plant or online, stay new, it will help profits. Marcus Lemonis, J.D. Powers, and John Scully, and 100 other presidents and experts contributed to Recalculating the book. Why did all these people agree to contribute to the book? I'm Don Mazzella, and I'm the editorial director of Small Business Digest. And for 20 years, we have been offering small business leaders information and data to increase profits. Recalculating the book was named the best small business book by the Independent Press Association. Whether you need help with marketing, staffing, finance, operations, technology, or many other subjects, they're all here in Recalculating the book. They're now available at Amazon at a reduced cost. We've also created the radio program Recalculating on recalculating.biz.
Thank you for joining us on Recalculating. We hope the information you received on today's episode was helpful to you in starting and growing your business. Please go to our website, recalculating.biz, to contact us, to listen to past shows, and see special offers. Until next time, remember, if you grow, we grow. Join us next week for more helpful ideas to make your business a great success. Recalculating, a program designed to help you be successful.